morning, guys, or good evening, depending on where you are in the world. Very early here for me in the UK. Just woke up, still in my sleeping t-shirt. Welcome back to the channel. This video is going to be somewhat a follow-up video with regard to the Max Spiers conspiracy theorist death that I reported on yesterday. So since then, well, for those of you that haven't heard the story, a conspiracy theorist, again, I hate that term, that's why I always put air quotes in there. If you look at the origins of how that term was created, if I remember, it was by the CIA to discredit people that look for the truth or alternative viewpoints on the news. So that's enough about that there. So he was a conspiracy theorist, or this is how the newspaper says it, a conspiracy theorist that's effectively he's wound up dead. And he messaged his mother a few days before he died, saying that if something happens to your boy, investigate it. Lo and behold, something happened. Hence why it's got to the newspapers, I guess. I've looked into him a little bit more. I'm going to do a whole lot more looking into him, because for me, the fact that it was on the front page of the Daily Mail online, I'm not sure if the actual physical newspaper, if it was the front page or not, because I didn't buy it, I was just looking online. To me, seemed odd, because I'm always reading stories about scientists turning up dead once they found a cure for something, or someone looking into Hillary Clinton's shady emails and what have you, wind up dead. I'm always reading these stories, but yet I don't seem to see it making the front page as such. Again, assuming that it was the front page on a physical copy of a newspaper. So I thought, okay, I have to look into this guy. Why him? It's like in the UK here, there was a story about a little girl that went missing called Maddie. Maybe you've heard about her in the US or worldwide. I'm not quite sure how big the story was, but for some reason, they ran with this story in the UK for years. It was a little girl that got abducted. If I remember, her parents were like lawyers and doctors or something like that, so I guess that could maybe lend more credence to the story, because they're not from a lower income background, who knows. But they ran with this story for years, and I always was thinking to myself, I'm sure that kids probably get abducted every day. I'm not saying that it's right or wrong to be pushing a story on one individual, because they should be pushing it on all of them if that's the case. But for some reason they kept running with this story, whether it was a distraction, whether, I don't know, people felt like they then knew the child that this has happened to, so then they kept running with it. I don't know. But this struck me as odd as well. So I had to look into this guy. So Max Spiers, I've only watched one of his interviews so far. I urge you to check the guy out yourself. I still need to do a whole lot more research about the guy. From what I've garnered so far, so many people call him the super soldier. So apparently, from what I've gathered so far, bearing in mind I still need to do a whole lot more research on this, he appears to have been in a super soldier program. He seems very knowledgeable about the way the world is run, which could potentially be why he was all of a sudden had black goo coming out of his mouth, or black liquid. But from what I've garnered, he's a whole lot more than just a conspiracy theorist. I think he was in quite deep, but something that struck me in one of his interviews. So he was talking about Annunaki. So for those of you that are just tuning in now and have never heard of that term, again, look it up. I'm not 100% familiar with it, so I'm not the best person to be telling you the ins and outs of Annunaki. But it seems to be some form of like an alien species that was apparently on Earth pre-humans. from what I've gathered about it. Again, don't quote me on that. I've not looked into them too much. But this is just something that I keep hearing certain things coming up with different people, and that seems to be one of them. So again, I'm going to look into that a bit more. I've heard of a book called The Fingerprints of the Gods, I think it's called, by a guy called, I think his name's Graham Hancock, I want to say. Again, don't quote me on these. But that is a subject I'm going to look into a bit more as well. But he said that there are these kind of alien species, if you will, living in Earth. And again, this is something I've heard other people say before as well. And it just made me think of the Mandela effect with the Lord's Prayer, where that is now in Earth. Yeah, just where it says in Earth as opposed to on Earth. So again, I've heard different people's explanations for why this is, saying, oh yeah, but we're not of the Earth and stuff like that. But as I say, I always knew it as on Earth. And it just made me think, with these Mandela effects, some of the changes that have happened are just either subtle, an S here and S there, or quite blatant, but many people don't seem to see them. So you've got the JFK assassination, you've got the Eli Whitney one, you've got the Lord's Prayer, for me, was a huge one. And judge not lest ye be judged. Again, I've found residual evidence. I've done a whole video of that. Found quite a lot of residual evidence on both. But for some reason, it just struck me as weird that when he said in Earth, again, I've heard people say this before, but when he said it, that came to my mind. The whole in Earth, how the prayer has now changed. And there was something else he said as well, which I found very interesting. So there's a film called They Live. For those of you that haven't watched it, strongly suggest to watch it. I thought it was a great film, conceptually amazing. I think it's more of a cult following film. However, apparently there's a lot of truths being said in that film. I mean, the underlying message of it is that we are all under control by a kind of, yeah, I guess an alien species, and they use different frequencies to mask our view of them, I guess. But this guy receives these glasses, and then it allows him to see things for what it really is. So when he looks around, he sees all the billboards, the advertisements saying consume, consume, buy. Which, for me, I do truly see the real world like that now. Yeah, it's like sex, buy, money. It's like we're constantly conditioned. I mean, I was just on the tube the other day, the Underground, and I thought the amount of adverts I saw just on my journey on the Underground was unreal. You literally go up the escalator, and you're bombarded by about 30 to 50 adverts just on that escalator journey alone. And it just makes me think. So there's projects that I've looked into in the past. There's one called e.l.f, which is extremely low frequencies. There's other frequency related projects. So with the e.l.f one, if I recall, if I'm using the right name for it, you can effectively via frequencies put voices into people's heads to make them kind of feel like they're going crazy. But I've looked into a few other frequency related projects before. And what if there is some sort of frequency that can alter our views? What if the Mandela effect is something like that? Because I still don't understand how some people don't see the changes. I don't have any more words to explain how people don't at least resonate with one of the changes that they've encountered on a deeper level than just, it's our memories messing up, or confabulation, or what other terms they're going to use. So I just found it very interesting, and I guess the overlying message, or the underlying message of this whole video is, check out that Max Spiers guy for yourself. you'll probably find something that I didn't find. Again, the more heads that are looking in a direction, or the more eyes on a direction, the more chances are that someone's going to spot something. Again, it's the same principle with the Mandela effect. There's probably still hundreds, if not thousands, if not tens of thousands of changes out there. Again, it's just whether you are able to see it, I guess, or notice it, I would say. But that's all from me, guys. Hopefully I didn't waffle too much on here, go off on a bit of a tangent sometimes. I've probably said that in every video before. But yeah, thanks a lot for your time, and have a good one. Cheers. Bye.